So hello, welcome. I'm Ann Weiser Cornell,
I'm Barbara McGavin.
and this is a webinar and an open house for our Untangling method and our Getting Free course. And we're going to take a nice long time, 90 minutes, to talk to you about tangles and untangling and all of those, the powers that we teach as part of the untangling method and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're even going to have some people sharing about how it's been for them to be on this course for the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been pretty amazing for me. I've learned so much, and it feels like things have happened for me as well,
Oh
which
my
has been
gosh.
exciting.
You know, we've been doing this work together. It's been developing through us and in us for more than 25 years now. And even now, it keeps on enriching and growing. And the more we teach it, the more we learn. So nice. Just wanted to mention that we're on a Zoom webinar, which means you can see us. We can't see you. You can communicate with us anytime you want using the chat feature. So there's a little chat icon. It opens up a window. When you see that window at the very bottom of it, you can choose between sending your chat to all panelists or to all panelists and attendees. We'd love it if you would choose all panelists and attendees so everybody can see what you write, because the panelists are only us. And
Yes.
say hi, you know, and if you're calling in by phone, this isn't relevant to you, but everybody else can say hi.
Yeah, it'd be great to know where you're from. I always love that in a webinar, seeing where people are from. Hi, I'm from, where am I from? I'm from Canada. I'm from
we had a hi
UK.
from Micheline, who's from Canada. We had a hi from Nadia, who's from Kuwait.
Yes.
Yay, very good. Very good. So wonderful. Now,
Sarah from the UK, Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, that's William.
Vermont, Melbourne.
Kate from Melbourne.
Okay, Germany, Scotland, Colorado.
Lovely.
Uh-huh.
Very nice.
Ireland.
Wow.
UK.
Very international. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Manhattan and Madrid. It's like me. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you
California,
from, Barbara?
I'm from California and the UK.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth from Glasgow. Hey, I love Glasgow. One of my favorite places. Love it.
So much. The people to
Mm-hmm.
Peggy from California and New Mexico.
Vancouver, Washington.
And where I'm from is a longer story.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Very good. So, you know, we've started to talk about how this work began to emerge in us more than 25 years ago. Why? Because, and when we say this work, we're talking about the untangling process. We used to call it treasure maps to the soul. Now we call it untangling.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what it is. But in order to know what untangling is, we have to talk about what tangles are.
Yes.
Let's start there. What are tangles? And do you have one? And do you have many? We think probably you do, because a tangle is the kind of thing that would make you want to come to a webinar like this. And because it's an area of life, or a kind of repetitive life problem or issue that's just not possible to solve in the usual ways.
Yeah. It and how do you know that you have a tangle? Well, there's some kind of clues, like how you feel. How you feel. I used to feel like a couple of things. I used to feel like I was falling into a kind of an abyss of despair. That was something that was like really common for me. I was really caught in that. And like, I felt like I was, a good day was I would have my head above the abyss and I could see the world, but I wasn't exactly participating. I wasn't exactly out there in the world living my life freely. I was really stuck in this. I was either, like, it's up there somewhere. The world is up there somewhere, and I'm down here in the bottom of this horrible abyss. And that was like really, really common for me for years and years and years. And another way that, on a good day, it would feel like I was spinning my wheels and I was just not getting anywhere in life. I was like in my head, like I would have my, the what was it, the pedal to the metal, but going nowhere fast. Those are two of the ways that my tangles showed up in my life.
And my tangles showed up through puzzling behavior that I thought, why am I doing this? Or why am I not doing this? I would have inner critics galore telling me, you should not be getting drunk that often. People look up to you. You're a teacher. If they knew what you were doing, they wouldn't admire you the way they do. So you have to keep this hidden, but you shouldn't do it. And stop. And this means something is wrong, but it didn't cause it to stop. Or I'd feel like there's something I need to be able to do to write a book, to reach out and try to sell a book I've written, to speak in front of groups. And yet, over and over again, I'd find myself not doing those things that something in me said I should do. And I would have longings that also felt shameful and hard to describe or tell anybody about, but that kept persisting inside me. So these are some of the ways our own tangles felt. When we started getting together, we started teaching together. We were just about to teach together when my thing with alcohol blew up. I realized I have to stop. I really do have to stop, but I don't know how. And I'm horribly ashamed of it and really afraid that it's going to come back. I'm going to start doing it again. I confessed that to Barbara. And the point is that the focusing we had been doing hadn't helped.
Yeah, both of us had been focusing teachers for really quite a long time by that point. This was in the beginning of the 90s, right?
94.
That was 94. Yeah, beginning of the 90s, more or less. And like I'd already been doing focusing for 10 years. You'd been doing focusing for 20 years by that point.
It helped me with lots of things.
Absolutely.
But not these most difficult areas of life that we now know are tangles.
And one of the things about tangles is that they're not just difficult situations in life. They are actually a whole intricate, interlocking mass of many parts in you that are all locked together, and you cannot just simply unpick a lot, them, get rid of one here and get rid of one there, because every single part in that whole complex has a piece of who you are that's essential for this whole thing to resolve itself. You cannot just simply cut little bits out and toss them in the bin and move on. You have to do something really radically different. And this is what we're about.
Tangles are not just challenges. They're not just hard life problems to solve that you can solve by willpower or determination. That's what's so tough about them. That's why they needed a new approach. And somehow, luckily, the combination of me and Barbara, our passions and skills, her brilliance at theoretical discernment and I've got some good stuff too. It somehow that made it possible for us to develop what we needed. At first, it was just for ourselves. But very quickly, people started to ask us the very questions that we could only answer out of the new things we'd been discovering. And we discovered at that point that a lot of people have tangles. And
yeah, it was really funny. We were there in this workshop, and we kept looking over at each other and going, "Oh my God, are we gonna?
How do I answer this question?
This? Are we gonna actually say this out loud to these people?"
Very new thing we just discovered in our own focusing, but obviously they need to hear it, and they loved it. And by the next year, we were doing retreats in it. So we want to tell you more about this method that we have developed. And we hope you're asking yourself, do I have a tangle? Do I have more than one tangle? Do I have an area of life that feels that way? That feels like everything I have tried to change it either hasn't helped and sometimes has even made it worse. And there's actually a nice theoretical foundation that is based on the work of Eugene Gendlin to explain why, when you are still entangled and from the tangle you try to make a change in it, you're actually making it worse because you are,
you're operating within the same, at the same level.
You're trying to solve the problem using the problem, something like that. Yeah. And so this is actually good news. We hope this is hopeful because it means that it makes sense that you haven't been able to really shift your tangle yet.
Yeah.
Not that there's something wrong with you or that you haven't worked hard enough or tried hard enough or gotten rid of enough of your bad parts. It actually makes total sense. It's not, there is a way to shift tangles. That's what we're here for. We start with acknowledging what are tangles? That tangles are a different kind of problem. And in fact, in a tangle, something's impossible. So you come to the place where you're like, I give up. Well, we don't want you to give up. But you come to the place where you say, you know what? I've been beating my head against something that's actually impossible. This is actually a hopeful moment. Because right there, you're finding where the heart of the tangle is. And in fact, one way to find a tangle, we've been talking about how they feel and how they operate. Another way to find a tangle is where in my life is something impossible? Or it might be two things that are impossible at the same time, like both to be myself and to have good relationships with other people, feel accepted. Like that's impossible somehow.
Yeah. Or it's impossible to, it's very similar. Express myself freely and feel comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah. Free expression plus feeling okay about myself.
Yeah.
Can feel impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the way, if you, as you hear us, are thinking of some things that are going on for you that might be tangles, feel free to write them in the chat. And some of the people we've invited as guests who've been doing Untangling with us, feel free to write some of the things that used to be tangles for you in terms of what was impossible. What was the
yes,
both these things can't happen at the same time. So let's see, we had a few things we wanted to say about the qualities of tangles.
And why, yes, qualities of tangles. Let's start with that. A lot of the qualities of tangles are how, like we were saying, how you feel. Like a lot of people who are stuck in a tangle feel not quite like themselves, or ungrounded, or disconnected, or kind of numb out, or kind of floaty, like not really fully in the world, not somehow shut off from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you're walking along beside yourself rather than really inhabiting yourself.
Yeah, that certainly was true for me for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt really disconnected, like even on the edge of feeling like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I realized that part of the reason I was using alcohol addictively is that if I hadn't, I would have had to face feelings of something in my life really being off or wrong, of something, my relationship not really being right for me, not, my work not being fulfilling for me, but something in me was scared to look at that and see that that was true. Better to spend some time with an addiction instead. Charles just wrote, oh, Charles, I wish when people would write, especially when there are invited guests, be sure to choose all panelists and attendees. But I'm going to read you what Charles wrote, even though you can't read it yourself. Charles wrote, I would be afraid I wouldn't be heard. And then when I did speak up, I would feel that I'd spoken too much. Never finding a comfortable balance between hearing others and being heard. That's what was impossible, to both speak up and feel heard and not feel one had spoken too much. That's a great example. Yeah. So we're talking about what tangles feel like. Let's also talk about some of the discoveries we've made about tangles. One is that when you're in a tangle, even how you think is part of the problem. So usually with an ordinary problem and not a tangle, you'd be able to think your way out. You'd be able to figure it out, decide, analyze what's going on, make some choices and decisions about what to do. That doesn't work in a tangle, because in a tangle, even the way you think about it is actually part of the problem.
Yeah.
Part of the tangle.
So, you can't get good advice from others. You can't turn towards books and stuff like that at the same level. So this work, we're going to get
shift levels.
Bigger. We're going to shift levels. Like Einstein said, you have to shift levels. Otherwise, you can't solve it at the same level at which you created.
Yeah. And another thing about tangles, we're talking about, well, maybe there's a tangle over here, maybe there's a tangle over here, but actually a tangle impacts every part of your life. And in fact, what people often discover when they start working with tangles is maybe the first thing you discover is, whoa, that's actually more widespread than I thought.
Which is both kind of, but it's also, because as you work on that tangle, it changes all sorts of areas of your life. It has a widespread effect. We could call it negatively, or it constrains your life, but also as things shift, it shifts all over your life. Which
the good news is it changes everything. And we've maybe, managed to feel like we keep it contained, and we've got this other area where we feel really free. But you know what? When people start untangling, they find themselves getting more free in many more areas than they thought were actually part of the tangle. So that's the good news. And the thing is that when you're in a tangle, there's only bad choices. That's another reason why we can't decide our way out of a tangle.
Because like with Charles, It's like the only two choices that seem possible inside the tangle are speaking too much or being able to hear others. Now, they both seem like good choices, but within a tangle, it's an either or kind of situation. You either speaking too much or being able to hear people. But beyond the tangle is something that is more more nuanced than that.
So the frustration of a tangle inside it is there's no right choice. And I wonder if that fits for you as you think about your own life. Are there tough areas of my life where I can do this or I can do this? And both of them don't feel right. They're not, there's no good choice.
Or even multiple choices, and none of them feel right.
No good choices.
No good choices.
And
that's so frustrating.
And related to that is the fact that parts of us are fighting each other. Like this part says, well, just speak up, right? Just, don't care about others. Just let them have it. And this part says, oh, no, don't say anything. And then those two parts fight each other. So there's a conflict, and who knows how to resolve that conflict? Again, there's nothing we can say about it.
Yeah. Charles shares, beyond the tangle, there is a natural flow between speaking and hearing others easily. Brilliant.
Yes, nice. Great. And Anne writes, I had been working with something in me that made me feel fear, terror, and vulnerable sometimes when it was triggered. And after the Year of Untangling course, I'm aware of how I can work with these feelings and all the connected bits in a way that helps me feel in control and able to work with whatever comes up. So I find myself smiling and laughing more. These are our invited guests. It's so nice. It makes me really smile and feel happy too when I hear that. And another thing about tangles is that the whole nature of reality feels affected by it. So again, our thoughts about what's true, what kind of person I am, what the nature of the universe is, or what the nature of the world is. Do you have dark thoughts that about things being hopeless, about you being unable to move where you want to move in your life? That's inside a tangle, because tangles affect and influence the whole way we see the world. Okay, is it enough? People are hearing us.
John, yeah. I noticed something in me is speculating about what a tangle is from a parts and presence perspective. Do tangles happen when parts are leading the focusing process instead of presence, when there are deeper layers of parts that are not coming to the surface? How can we answer this?
I think we're gonna answer that, John.
Yes.
When we talk about the powers. So let's make note of that and get back to it. We can talk about what is a tangle from the point of view of parts. And Fiona writes, I have a long-term illness, was bedbound for several years. I've worked really hard in many ways, nice list of things, have made progress. Wonderful, so glad to hear it. I find focusing the last 8 months really helpful for my inner world, but my physical health has improved only slightly. So questions about choosing between our course and something else, can we put those off till later?
It does point, the whole thing, the whole question does point to, like, it points to something that's really pretty subtle, which is the whole idea about success and outcomes and how things can change in doing this work. What people can go into this course with very specific desired outcomes. And that may or may not happen. But what does happen is, like, if there is a way of having something that really dramatically changes. A lot of people have come to the end of this year and they go, okay, this has not changed as much as something in me would really have liked. But I am now in a very different way, like kind of like Anne said, I feel in control and able to work with whatever comes up. So there's a whole different kind of way of having life or engaging with life, even though there may still be, and there will be, challenging things and difficult things, that you can have that in a very different way. Even something like an ongoing long-term illness. Even though there is this, I am okay, and I am okay in my life, and I am engaged in my life, and I am living my life. And that is something that is kind of hard to convey. That
Well,
sometimes,
Lakshmi just
yeah,
wrote that in another way. Lakshmi, who also just finished our course. I have so much more spaciousness, ease, and a sense of settledness. Feels much more valuable than a particular outcome. And
yeah,
I'm just wanting to say, we're telling you the truth, our truth. We are not saying that the particular way you would like your life to change right now is sure to change from taking our course, because we don't know that. We don't know that it will, and we don't know that it won't.
that's right.
It might.
Yeah.
But untangling results in a bigger kind of change than we can envision when we start doing it. That is what we have seen happening. And in other words, we're talking about how inside the tangle, your thoughts are part of the tangle, your actions are part of the tangle, and even the outcomes you can envision are part of the tangle.
Mm-hmm.
So what shifts can be, okay, I feel, this, and many people have told us this particular unhealthy habit has released. I don't do it anymore. My
Yep.
overall health is better. I've lost weight. My relationships are so much better. And they've also said some of those things are still happening, but I'm okay.
And I'm okay.
And I'm okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what it means for these things to change, and how, when they change, so much more is happening than just a particular outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So nice. Thanks to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lily writes about, oh, you didn't see what Lily wrote, but I'll quote it to you. Lily writes, someone I know who is finishing the course says she's happy with the way she is with herself now.
Mm.
Okay, so we are going to talk a bit now about the method, and then we're going to take you through an exercise where you can get started with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to say more about the course and invite our friends to we're going to get then to the questions you may have about what's possible for you when you take the course. But the untangling method, by now, and it's always changing, but at this moment, it has 5 what we call powers. And in a way we teach you the powers, but in a way we help you bring the powers to the surface. We believe these are powers that you naturally have when you're not entangled. So the 5 powers, we're going to say what they are.
And I want to say that cultivating these or developing these or strengthening these powers is really about creating an environment in which transformation can occur. This is about we are creating this shift to a different level. And this environment of transformation, or this environment, creates the ground or the space within which transformation naturally occurs. So you're not going to change anything. Change will happen. You're not going to make anything different. The difference evolves. The difference will carry you forward. It's like as it changes, it lifts you up and you live forward further in your life.
So in that sense, this work is like it is focusing, right? The fundamental principle that we all know as focusers, which is we don't try to make change happen. And we think our untangling method is focusing plus. It's based on all the principles that we got from Eugene Gendlin, including his philosophy. And that, what Barbara just said, is one of the essences of it. We do not try. Change doesn't happen because we try to make it happen. But we create an environment. So that's what the 5 powers are. So power number 1 is called the power of cultivating self in presence. And you've all heard of self in presence before. You've learned about cultivating it. So why are we teaching it again?
Well, we want to really make sure that you go deep in this. So there's more subtlety in this work that we get to share in this. And it's like, this is the most important thing. Self in presence is always the most important thing. We come back to it over and over and over and over again. And the more that we can give you support in making this your own, in making this process yours, is what we're on about here. This is why we go back to it.
We go over self in presence again because tangles need it even more than everything else that you've ever done with focusing. And at the same time, obviously, it's harder. Self in presence is more cultivating self in presence, being self in presence, living from self in presence is harder when you're with a tangle. It could even be said that that's what defines a tangle. It's an area where it's really hard to be self in presence, to not be caught or merged or in the battle or in the struggle. And so I'm sure you recognize in your life things like that. So that's power number 1. First, last, and always cultivate self in presence. Power number 2,
which is a further elaboration of power number 1, as all of them are. All of the powers are actually powers of presence. But power number 2
is called the power of and, A-N-D, power of and. And what we're saying is that to work with a tangle, to where you are sure to have more than one part, we need an extra step of making sure that the different parts that are involved in your tangle are sort of in front of you rather than pushing from behind you or hiding behind you, that all of them are sort of out here where you can hold them of equal value. And there's a part of the power of and where you're discovering, oh, I thought this was me, but it's actually a part of me. So I really, really want this to change really fast. Oh, wait, that's another part. So the process of letting them all be there and being not the same as the parts, being self in presence, being that space where all of them can be as they are.
Yes. It's really amazing to somehow having each of those parts and even having a space for, and I know that there are other parts and I don't know what they are and I don't even know where they are, but I am becoming the space where everything that needs my attention can come and be known. So there's the and that's very specific. It's like, and there's this, and oh, there's that, and there's that, and there's that hiding back there somewhere, and I'm not going to drag it out. It starts to create this welcoming, inclusive environment, which
Which Lakshmi just said in the chat. Thank you for that, Lakshmi.
the power and I feel so inclusive. It is so inclusive. And Charles says, I love the power of and. I love it too, so much.
One of my favorite parts is the one that says, whoa, this is way too many parts. I can't handle them all. So we just say, and something in me says, these are way too many parts. And it thinks it has to handle them all. So really, there's a lot of really relaxation and release that already comes with the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you're already living to some extent separate from your tangle. We're going to give you a bit of an and exercise, a little bit of self and presence and exercise a little later in this webinar, so you can hopefully feel a bit of that relief already. But it's only the beginning, because power number 3 is a big one.
It's so big, it takes like several of our modules, several of our meetings to be able to really go deeply into it. I mean, one of the reasons that we're doing this course is that even 6 days and all that we can do in 6 days with people is just not enough to be able to really get all of the subtlety and the depth and be able to really practice this next power, which is the power of deep empathy.
Deep empathy.
It's all of our parts have been hanging on to something and trying desperately to be able to solve, deal with, live forward in our lives, or keep you safe. And they all need to be able to be fully heard, both what they are worried about or afraid of, and what they are longing for. So, and the power of deep empathy is it's really, we've had a lot of time to really work on getting this process so that it is the most supportive of being able to deeply hear, understand each part.
Including very precise language.
Very precise language. That's right.
But the point is that as tangles untangle, parts transform, not because we are telling them they have to, but because they themselves want to. And that's what happens in the power of deep empathy, is that I, self and presence, am present with my parts with empathy in a very particular way, in the way that each kind of part needs. And they go through their process of shifting and evolving, and sometimes dissolving, if that's what they're ready for.
Yeah.
So a lot in the power of deep empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are with the parts that we met at the surface, we are creating a kind of inner atmosphere so that we can start getting in touch with, accessing, and allowing a safe place for parts that are even deeper, that have been hidden by and also hiding under that original tangle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a deep, deep, deep empathy for the kinds of parts that are underneath the first tangle. Some very, very interesting work comes there.
And then we get even deeper than that, even deeper than that, or even more core than that, is somewhere in your life, at some point in a tangle, when a tangle formed, there was something that was impossible. And it created this sort of knot, or we call it a point of stoppage. It's where that it was impossible to go to feel this and to go beyond it. And we bring in, this is the core of focusing right here. We bring in, what we need to do with this is to get a felt sense of that point of stoppage. So we call it the power of felt sensing at the point of stoppage. And this is really deep, but you can't just go there.
You can't just go there.
We wish we could. That would be so much simpler.
Why can't we just go there? Because
we need every single part. We can't leave any of our parts behind.
And the parts themselves, and many of the things that happen in the tangle, like my drinking, for example, many of the things that happen in the tangle are so that you don't ever get in touch with the point of stoppage, the felt sense at the point of stoppage, because the parts think you couldn't handle it.
Yeah, you'd fall apart, you'd go crazy, you would become completely overwhelmed by those parts that are trying to deal with it. Yeah, they have lots of different reasons.
So it takes something to get there, and when we can get there, we will have the resources to be there without going crazy or falling apart, because that is why we cultivated self and presence all this time.
Yes.
Very amazing. That's the most recent process we've developed, and it is. There's a number of transformation points in our method. This is one of them.
It's one of the wonderful things about doing this work, I love, is all of the different places where there are where transformations.
Hey, I like to say some methods have one transformation point. We have 4.
I think 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think it's 5 at the last one count.
Yeah. And finally, just to give the list of powers complete, the final power is called the power of holding it all. And that allows us to step back and get the sense, a horizontal sense of how the tangle is now. And that too is a felt sense, and allows forward movement in a way that hasn't been possible before. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe it's time for a little exercise. And then we're so excited about talking to you about what's going on with you and your questions and so on. But let's do a little exercise right now. Shall we do that?
Okay. I'm going to let you do that, Anne. So I'm going to step back and
taking over here.
Stop my video and my.
Yes. Great.
There we go.
Great. All right. Just a second. I need to. There we go. So we're going to do a little exercise that starts with something going on for you in your life that you figure is probably a tangle. Don't worry about phrasing it perfectly. Don't worry about whether that's the tangle or just one of them. Let's let it be relaxed. But there's something going on in your life that probably, as we talked about tangles and our own stories and so on, that's something that it would be great if it would change, but you've tried and it hasn't. And that's what you'd really hope would change in one way or another, okay? So you've got something like that in mind. And now let's do a little process, okay? So, taking your time to settle into your body right now. Feeling your body supported. Finding your feet and your seat and your back. So you're resting into the support that's there. And one way we cultivate self and presence is just to sense where in your body you're feeling okay right now. Like peaceful, relaxed, excited, warm, open, spacious, even a little bit. Even if that's not the only way you feel. Yeah? It's called gathering resources. Great. That's it. And being aware of your breathing, which can also be a resource. And allowing your awareness to come inward, sensing in the inner area of your body. That includes your throat, chest, stomach, belly, that whole inner area of your body. And now remember that thing we're calling your tangle today. It's a way you wish your life would change, or a way your life feels stuck, something that feels impossible, some way you feel bad about yourself or what you've been able to do or feel. Okay, so that's what we're calling your tangle right now. This, for the purposes of this exercise, that's your tangle. And notice where in that tangle you feel some emotion. Frustrated, sad, longing, angry, anxious, despairing, or desperate. There might be more than one emotion, but we're going to start with just one. And now say, I am sensing something in me feels da da da, like filling in the name of the emotion. So if it's frustrated, I am sensing something in me feels frustrated. That's probably an exercise you've done before. And even so, notice again what kind of difference it makes to use that kind of language. Maybe especially important in the tangle to feel that difference from I'm frustrated to I'm sensing something in me feels frustrated. You pause and take that in. Okay, so now what else? Is there another emotion? Is there a part of you that is trying to get you to stop feeling that first emotion by saying, oh, it's not so bad, cheer up, you shouldn't feel that way? Pausing to notice if there's something like that. don't feel that way, or you'll get swallowed up by that emotion, and then you won't be able to do anything. Got it? Just another emotion or a feeling about that first emotion. So now make a sentence that has both parts. I'm sensing something in me feels like frustrated, whatever yours is. And I'm sensing something in me that also feels or feels about that. So that sentence with and in the middle holds both parts. I'm going to say it again. I'm sensing something in me feels that's the first one that you said already. And I'm sensing something in me feels another feeling, or says I shouldn't feel that first way. And both are there. So this is your tangle, feeling and feeling, and both are there. Now let's stretch our sentence to another and. Just pausing to sense, if I say that those two things are there, what else is there? What else is there? For example, and I'm tired of all this. Or, and I just want to get away from it all. Did you get a third thing? And I'm not sure if I'm going to do this right. Yeah, could be anything. So let's add that to the sentence. I'm sensing something in me feels like frustrated. And I'm sensing something in me feels or doesn't want me to feel that first way. And I'm sensing something in me is tired of it all. Says I can't learn this, says it won't work. Okay? And all three are there. Now, what difference did it make in your body to make a sentence with all three of those feelings? Using I am sensing something in me, and I am sensing something in me, and I am sensing something in me, and all three are there. Let's add one more piece. You ready? And I am here with all of that. And if you got the feel of it, you can add more with another and. What's nice about and is there's always more and. But I am here with all of that is very important, because that's you living from self in presence. And pausing to get the feel. Can I say, and I am here with all of that, and really feel that way? Or does that feel hard? And if it feels hard, can I add that at the end of my and sentence? And it's hard to be with this. And something in me feels it's hard to be with. Yes. I am here. Another thing you can say I am the space where all of this can be how it is. Let's try that together. Inwardly saying, I am the space where all of this can be the way it is. And sense what happens inside when you say that and really let it in. Great. All right then. Let's take a little time just to feel again. Did this make a difference? What kind of difference did it make? And what would you like to remember from this experience? So we're bringing this exercise to a gentle completion, thanking your body and your process, and letting it all know that you'll be back. This is only the beginning. But it's a good beginning, I think. If you've had your eyes closed, you can let them come naturally open again. You may want to make a few notes about how that was for you. And we'll come back.
Okay, I'm here.
And if people want to write in the chat something from the exercise, a question about it, or a report about how it felt. Prashama wrote, something in me wants to cry at feeling heard. That makes me, that gives me the idea that that exercise helped something in you to feel heard. And that is so lovely. Sarah writes, feels like time stretches out and less urgency to solve and find solutions.
Yeah.
And something in me feels urgency to, and I am here with that.
Yes.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And Lily writes, feelings of space, peace, joy, and tears. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Feeling more at home in me. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's amazing. This is only the second power.
This is sort of the first two, but yes.
Yes. Basically, yeah.
And yeah.
And even this helps to create that environment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Every power makes the next power possible. Kate writes, I felt a sense of expansion in me as all could be there. And it makes us realize that what life is like inside a tangle is that everything's sort of piled on top of everything else, and we're sort of merged with it all, or trying not to be. And this, at least I get to be here with all of that.
Yeah.
So nice. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Did anybody want to ask us something? Burr writes, grounding. Feels like there's possibility, but I'm happy to just be there too. Oh, and I realized Burr earlier wrote about her tangle. I saw that go by. That it will always be a challenge to have good boundaries and close relationships. That's a tangle, all right. Yeah. Right. And Susie writes, I loved especially the invitation to be the space where all of this can be the way it is. Yeah.
That's one of my very, very favorite.
And Barbara's the one who came up with it. It's my favorite.
I can be in the space. It's like, one of the things I really like about that is it's like the earth. The earth, it's just there. It doesn't make judgments about, it doesn't even make judgments about litter that's on it. It just,
Really?
yeah.
I feel like the earth is getting kind of pissed off about the litter. But you
I
mean,
don't,
I know you mean something else. So
yes.
uh, let me try to understand what you mean by that. The earth doesn't make judgments. Okay.
The earth doesn't make judgments about what is on it. Yeah, it just,
Okay.
it provides space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. And the sun and the clouds. There's not a judgment there.
That's right.
Yeah. So nice. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to
Yes.
talk a little about our course, and we hope that many of you came to find out more about it. So here's where we do that. And I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, I thought that we were going to, I thought it was time to share our people.
Let's, oh, all right. That sounds good.
Yeah.
So Lakshmi, Charles, Nati, Anne, these are the folks who just finished our course. Actually, there's one more meeting. And we invited them to come along. And they've been writing in the chat, but which of you folks would like to actually have a voice? We can promote you to panelist, but we won't do that until you say me. The best testimonial for the course you might be considering taking is people who've just finished it, who've gone through it. Okay, Nati says, I'm happy to share. All right, Nati, let me find your name.
Okay.
All right, here you are. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
You hear me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here because I so loved this course. I feel like it's a course that actually delivers, which in this world is not such a common thing. So, yeah, my life has shifted as a result of this year. And I think that coming into it, the most helpful thing for me was the immediate permission or welcoming to not be able to articulate exactly what my tangle was in one sentence or with one concept, but this very spacious inclusion of the tangle having different manifestations, and every time it can appear in a different way. All the threads lead. I think Barbara once said every trigger is a trailhead, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
that sounds good.
I love that. Yes.
Welcoming, my tangle immediately took the pressure off of that part of myself that felt like it had to understand my problem before I could class about it. And then, so right from the get-go, that attitude shifted any result-oriented pressure that I felt inside. And I don't know what the magic is. I think it's in the structure of the exercises that, of course, have focusing as their foundation, but go so much further that over time, bit by bit, you just start to trust the process without trying to control it. And that was just really magical for me. And just yesterday, I did probably my last partnership with my current partner. And it was like a meta process. The image that came up for me at the end of this session was that I had been standing in front of this tangle of brambly thorns, a literal tangle, if you will. And I couldn't see what was past it. And then I could see that there was this whole meadow out beyond this thorny, brambly patch. But the beauty here was that what I had thought was an obstacle obstacle to begin with, which was that thorny patch, and that I somehow had to get past it and through it and, you know, mow it down, actually became part of the foundation of the entire landscape.
Oh.
Like, I don't want to get like all hokey here, but it was like almost like a spiritual revelation, right? That everything was included, that there was a part of me that was afraid that I would try to completely eradicate my tangle and everything that made me special or made me know who I was.
Oh.
And then the final kind of self and presence insight was that it was all included, nothing was eradicated.
Ah.
Oh my gosh.
It was like a meta, it was a meta. Anyway,
Wow.
happy
Thank you.
Happy to, you know, if people want to ask any questions.
Yeah, people
offline.
can ask Nati questions. Put those in the chat as long as you include all attendees in your chat. Thank you, Nati.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yay. And Anne says she can say something. Hi, Anne. Just
Go
unmute
ahead.
yourself.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm deeply grateful for the experience of being on your course. It's because I've been aware of my tangle for many years and tried to work with it and not got anywhere. There were, well, you know, I chipped at the sides, I think is probably the best way to describe it. But it took that longer period of time, because I have done treasure maps and advanced treasure maps. It took, I mean, I tended to do focusing not just with the partner that I was allocated, but with another person as well. And I only did it twice a week because I thought that's as much as I feel I can cope with. So it wasn't just the classes, but the focusing sessions that we had that enabled me to become more proficient at using what was on offer and to reach, well, one of the phrases that has been true for me over many years is to be your own best friend. But when you're when you're dealing with something that really scares you or feels overwhelming, it's very difficult to say, well, you know, if I was my own best friend, then I would be offering this deep empathy, because you're too much in that fear zone. So having the support and the skills just to sit on the edge and say, yeah, you know, there's that scary bit, but I'm all right. I've learned how to be on an edge. And I don't need to change it. I can say, it's okay. You can be just as you are for as long as you need to be like that. But here's some space. I'm going to sit patiently and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
It's just such a lovely way to respectfully be with all the bits that are scrambling over one another, either to get out the way or to come forward. But it's okay. You can all be here. I'm going to be a big enough space, and I'm going to be the self in presence that's able to maintain that space and that edge without being sucked into it, or at least with the help of others, not being sucked into it. You know, I'm
That's
not
great,
saying
Anne.
it's easy, but
No, you're not saying
it's
it's
possible.
easy.
It's perfectly possible with the
Yeah.
structure and the help and support that I felt we were given during that year.
Oh, you know, I love that phrase. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Anne. Okay. And Charles says that he'll say something. And then we're going to talk about our course. Charles, go right ahead. And unmute yourself.
Okay.
I think what was interesting to me was the surprises. Like I sort of like, you go in and you see, oh, I have this struggle and I have this issue about not getting enough done. And at the end of the course is sort of like, oh, this is spaciousness and it's me.
Mm.
And it's here. And it's like, oh, you know, it's like, it was, this I didn't expect. And suddenly I have this flow and this spaciousness that oh, really? And then, but there were moments, like there's one moment I can remember where I was being with a child part of me, a small, like a 3 or maybe 4. And I was able to be with him with this kindness that I'd never been able to have before.
Mm.
So there's those specific things, which are also surprises. But mostly it's what people were talking about before, this change in the quality of living.
The whole quality of living.
The whole quality of living that I didn't expect.
Yeah. Now, Charles, things have changed for you, right? Some actual details of how easy it is to
do certain things,
write your book. Yeah.
It's easier. I'm enrolling again because I know that I think there's more. And I have no idea what's going to happen because it's going to be unexpected.
Yeah, it's going to be unexpected. Yeah.
But it'll be good.
Yay.
That I feel confident.
Yes, I love your faith in us, and most of all, it's faith in yourself.
And faith in
absolutely, and faith in the process.
And the process is, I was going to say, and you, and so very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles.
I hope others can really take from this. You know, that we all are speaking from our direct experiences.
Yeah, and this is to
not pushing anything.
This is to help people decide, not to push them to decide in a particular way.
Absolutely.
Yay! Thank you so much. Well, there is one more person here who we invited to be with us today. I want to invite Lakshmi to say something. Go ahead, Lakshmi, and unmute yourself, please. There you go.
There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
So what's been washing over me is both today and over this year is the way in which I've experienced Anne and Barbara to be just so authentic and so loving. And I can't emphasize this enough, that you both have been instrumental to creating that environment for me in which this change has been able to happen. I felt like I've been, yes, I was in a group, and yet I felt so cared for and so nurtured. I can't say how grateful I am for that experience.
So glad you felt that way.
Yeah.
And my tangle was about a decision, and so the method was very helpful in getting acquainted with the tangle, looking at the tangle from various viewpoints, to the left, to the right, turning the tangle over. That was very, very helpful. And then there were some changes that occurred outside of my tangle, and I no longer needed to make the decision. The decision was just made.
I love it. Yes.
And so by now I was 25% or so into the year-long course, but by this time I had come to learn about so many parts of me that I had not known about, that felt so true and so real. And so what my gifts from this year is getting encountered with a lot of my parts that are really agnostic to that core tangle that I started out with. And as Anne and Barbara was saying earlier on, a lot of parts are just so applicable universally, and that's something that I'm very grateful for, and that gives me a lot of juice to continue to work with.
Wonderful. So nice. Thank you, Lakshmi, so much.
Thank you
to everyone who's come on and shared with us. They're really supporting what we're saying about it. Now, let's talk about the course itself briefly and also answer the questions people have been putting in the chat and any more questions you have. I want to say, you know, the basic facts, right? It's a course that meets for a year. That's why it's called Getting Free, a Year of Untangling. And there are, you know, all those, it meets 24 times. Barbara and I will both be there for 24 Zoom meetings that happen on Tuesdays, same time as this webinar. It's just that it's 2 hours instead of 90 minutes. So if you could be here in person, you can be there in person. And the specific 24 dates, they roughly twice a month, but we travel and things like that. So we don't know. So, but all the dates are on the website. We're going to give you that link in a second. Some people were asking about focusing experience. This is a course that does require having completed a focusing training program. That's either 4 levels of focusing or the Path to Lasting Change, parts 1 and 2, or if you also completed a 6-day Treasure Maps retreat, that is also sufficient prerequisite. If you're not sure if your previous focusing training meets those requirements, just email me, Ann at focusingresources.com, and I'll let you know. Why do we do it that way? Because we work at a very advanced level, and because the whole course is based on focusing partnership. You partner. We are assigned partners from the course every week, although you can choose to work with the same partner every week, or even somebody who's not in the course. So lots of flexibility there, but if you want a structure where you are assigned a partner who is as experienced in focusing as you are, then that is a very nice structure. Oh, and we like people who decide early. Like the course doesn't start until April 7th, and it will close, and you need to register for it by March 30th, so a week before that. And there's also an early registration day where the price goes up. Let's see, what were some other questions people had?
One is there a difference between advanced treasure maps and this program?
Yeah, there's a difference in both directions. There are things that so there's just because everybody may not know this, there's a 6-day in-person retreat called Treasure Maps. And then if you take that, then you're eligible for a second 6-day Treasure Maps retreat called Advanced Treasure Maps. This year we're teaching both of them in Europe and in North America. Advanced Treasure Maps has elements that we just didn't put in our year-long course. They just didn't fit. So, and then our year-long course has a lot of elements that are not in Advanced Treasure Maps, including the very fact that you work with it for over a year, for our support and our coaching as you apply the method to your tangles over a whole year. I think that's really the most special thing about this course, Barbara.
Yeah, and there's a lot of new writing that goes with the course all the way through.
I did want to tell people that we've divided the year-long course into 4 seasons, because I think that it gives an idea of the structure of the way we're thinking about the course. The first season we jokingly call boot camp, because in that first 6 weeks, 6 meetings, we just give you the whole, like basically the first 3 powers, and the third power is a huge one, and let you just really get started with those. So that's boot camp. The second season is called Into the Maze. And that's about the ways that tangles are tricky, that parts in tangles there's all this that goes on when you start getting to know the parts in your tangles, how protected, and we name the different types of parts, and we talk about the strategies they use, what it's like to begin to engage with them, what it's like to deepen down into what's beneath them, and so on. And the third season is
diving beneath the surface.
The hardest of all. It's diving beneath the surface. Those special kinds of phenomena that we only get to when we get past the maze at the surface of the tangle. And that's very deep and intensive work. And by then you've got what you need to do that work. And then finally, the fourth power is called Into the World. And that's about, okay, so now how do we live with all this? And that's an exciting aspect of it. I don't have one tangle. That's fine. You don't have to have one tangle. You can have all the tangles. That's fine.
No problem at all with that. How many people are usually in a year-long course? Well, so we don't know about usually.
Only
but we
did it once.
Had 50 last time.
We had 50 last time, and it was
fine.
Yeah,
it was really fine.
Yeah.
We are prepared that there won't be as many as that this time, and who knows? We don't know.
Yeah, I think we would stop at 50.
I think we would probably stop at 50 too.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right.
And
yes, the recording of this presentation is going to be available. I'm just trying to go back through the chat.
Yeah, me too.
To see what else people were asking. If you had a question we haven't answered, could you put it in again? Please help. There was a question early on that we said we'd come back to. Oh, Lizanne asks, will there be another course starting later this year? No, we just start it once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah. So if this doesn't work, we've got another one next year.
What's this difference between this course and the second year of focusing? You're going to have to answer that one, honey.
Focusing second year is not really about tangles. So this is a engaged, intensive concentration on a particular life issue. Whereas focusing second year is really about becoming more adept at focusing partnership. Let's see.
And do I need to be registered for certification first in order for the Untangling course to No, you don't.
No.
It counts whenever whenever you go into certification, this will count towards that.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Doing new demos or using last year's demos? No, we don't know yet. Probably we'll see.
Do some new demos, but we don't know.
We did. Yeah.
I think John Rio had asked a question pretty early on that was interesting. Let's see. Find that again. Oh, I noticed something in me is speculating about what a tangle is from a parts and presence perspective. Do a tangles happen when parts are leading the focusing process instead of presence? Yes. So tangles originate in a stoppage. And because of that stoppage of life forward energy, being able to move forward with everything still in play. So it was not possible. Something happened. It could be something that happened once, but it's often something that happens repeatedly. So there's point of stoppage is a little bit of a funny term, but there's a stoppage or stopped process. These are terms from Eugene Gendlin.
Mm-hmm.
Tangles come into being because of that stoppage. And stoppages happen because there wasn't enough self and presence in you or the people around you. Or otherwise, that stoppage could have been repaired and it could have resumed, and you wouldn't have had a stoppage. So yes, tangles are all about the absence of self and presence. And healing the tangle, resolving the tangle, untangling the tangle is all about self and presence.
We have a couple more questions.
All right.
Does this course count towards becoming a practitioner? The answer is yes.
Oh, yes. It's required. It's one of the things that are sort of required. Like either this or the
treasure maps retreat
are required.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I'd like to share this with others. Will you put the recording on your website?
Oh, yes, definitely. We will.
Yes.
And Jose, your English isn't good enough, but you know what? We are coming to Sevilla, as you probably know.
Yes.
So you'll be able to do our work with us in Spanish. That'll be great.
Yes.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Charles says, lucky you. Yes, we are going. Lucky
Right.
Jose and lucky us. We get to go to
This
Sevilla.
year we'll be in Germany in May, northern Germany for our regular treasure maps. And then our advanced treasure maps will be in Switzerland. Oh, and another thing is this course, A Year of Untangling, qualifies you to take advanced treasure maps. There's no other way you could get to advanced treasure maps without taking the regular treasure maps. But having taken this course, you can join us in Switzerland when we're, well, not haven't
this
taken
year.
the course yet, no. And then we'll also be near Vancouver in August for both the regular and the advanced treasure maps. And the next year, Spain, maybe Italy. Yeah, we have a good life. Oh, we're going to be in Hong Kong this year too.
Yes.
For
November.
regular treasure maps.
Yeah.
Let's see. Stoppage sounds similar to what some call trauma. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It's our understanding of what trauma
Of traumatic
is.
process.
Yeah.
And what's needed.
Right. I don't know if I can agree that what we call stoppage is what others call trauma, because I would have to know what they mean by trauma within their system. But we understand, it's a hopeful understanding based on Gendlin, that what happens to us did not break us. It did not irreparably damage us. What happens to us creates like unfinished business. There's something that was unable to live forward, but it remains there, still ready to live forward when the conditions are possible. So I think there are other hopeful views of quote unquote trauma.
Absolutely.
And ours is too. And so what we mean by untangling is also what we mean by resolving that stoppage so that it's not a stoppage any longer. So that what's been waiting all your life to live forward, what's been missing can now be supplied. And wow, as you can hear from some of the people who took the course, what that begins to sound like. I want to say that I have really loved the course this past year.
Yeah.
And maybe another piece of thing I want to say is that all the teaching is in the handouts, the videos, and so on. What we do in those 2 hours when we're with you is help you.
Yeah. So we help with what has been difficult, and then also supporting you to going forward into the next section. So it's been really wonderful. And this how people have shared. One of the things that's really important to me about this, which we haven't yet said, is that there is a sense of community. There is a sense of people coming together. There is a that everybody supports everybody. It's not just Anne and me who supports you, but everybody supports everybody. And there has been amazing, deeply touching, deeply moving sharing from people and between people. It's really wonderful.
And in between those 24 meetings, there's a forum where people can talk about what's emerging and respond to each other with supportive comments. So it's been lovely. And we're just so looking. Now, what I'm looking forward to is the fact that last year we were writing the handouts just a few days before we put them on the website. Now they're done.
And we are continuing. We have continued to do that basically throughout the year.
Now they're done, and
yes.
we can relax and just enjoy the course. And we're writing a book from our handouts.
That's right.
So that'll be nice. All right. Well, I think that's everything. And wow, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us for this time. Remember, we'd love to chat with you more if you need help deciding one way or another. That's what we want, is that you find the best thing for you, for your living forward.